10 things you didn't know about flight attendants. Maybe you love flying, or maybe just the idea makes you clench your teeth in terror. But we bet you didn't know all of these secrets. It's time to ask the experts who fly all the time. Flight attendants. The airline industry has been around for a long time, since the Wright brothers flew their first powered airplane in 1903, and it has evolved a lot since then. In the early days, you were lucky to accommodate one person on a brief and highly risky flight. Today, you can cram hundreds of sleeping people into a flying bus and launch it through the sky for hours and hours of smooth sailing. Many of us consider ourselves experts at navigating departures, flights, and takeoffs almost as naturally as we get out of bed in the morning or take a walk around the block. But however experienced you are, learning some of these insights about airplanes can make your flights more pleasant. It might also make the experience better for the pilot and crew of flight attendants who have to do this all day, every day. Here at Brightside, we encourage practicing kindness along with learning. So check out these secrets of the industry and see if you can put some of them to good use. 1. All male crews are a thing of the past. Did you know this? Before 1930, the crews of airplanes were 100% male, including the pilot, ground crew, and all of the flight attendants. The position of flight attendant comes from the chief steward, a position on maritime ships, which were traditionally crewed entirely by men. The first female flight attendant was Ellen Church. She was hired by United Airlines in 1930, in part for her skills as a registered nurse, and in part as a marketing move. The thought was, if young girls were scared to fly, seeing a female crew member would reassure them that flying was safe. It worked, and women rapidly came to dominate in the cabin crew world. Over 100 years, the gender roles reversed, and many now see this as a primarily female profession. The majority of attendants these days are women, though plenty of men also work in the cabin. All a flight attendant needs is a responsible outlook and a warm personality. Female attendants were originally called stewardesses or air hostesses, but typically the preferred gender-neutral term these days is attendant. And, speaking of flight attendants, 2. Not waiters, but captain's assistants. A common misconception is that a flight attendant is basically a waiter on an airplane. They're there to pour drinks, serve food, hand out pillows and blankets, and generally give the passengers whatever they ask for. In reality, a flight attendant's job is to assist the cabin by managing the cabin during a flight. While the captain is busy flying the plane, the flight attendants keep an eye on what's happening in the cabin, serving as the captain's eyes and ears outside of the cockpit. They are trained in dealing with emergency situations, particularly first aid and dispute management, and they report unexpected events to the captain. At least once an hour, the pilots and flight attendants check in on the current status. 3. The crew is just as frustrated as you are. No one likes having to modify their schedule for a delayed flight, or, even worse, having to sit on the tarmac waiting and waiting. As much as you don't like it, your crew won't like it either. Airline crews are typically paid by the hour, but only the hours spent in actual flight are paid. A flight doesn't actually start until the door is closed. Time, as we all know, is money. If a flight is delayed, those are hours your flight attendant isn't getting paid for. So take it easy on them. They're not happy about it either. 4. Don't sleep during takeoff or landing. Hey, we get it. What better way to fly than get in your seat, shut your eyes before the doors have even closed, and go to sleep for the rest of the flight? Well, experienced flight attendants recommend avoiding this. Not only will you not be attentive during the safety demonstration and during takeoff, which is statistically the second most likely phase of a flight where something might go wrong, but it can impinge on your comfort. As an airplane gains altitude, the pressure differential might cause your ears to pop, or you might get a nosebleed. It's better to be conscious to deal with these things. Consider chewing a piece of gum or drinking water while climbing. For the same reason, you should try to be awake for descent and landing too. This period of a flight is the most dangerous, based on statistics from a Boeing air travel study. 58% of fatal accidents documented between 2004 and 2013 occurred during descent, approach, and landing. That said, 5. Sleeping when cruising is a great idea. Once the airplane is up in the air, take a nap. This is a great solution for people who are scared of flying, and it reduces the workload on the crew, giving them more time and energy to spend on other passengers who need them. Attendants encourage passengers to sleep on night flights, deliberately delaying food service to let people fall asleep. If you're asleep on a plane, the crew won't wake you up unless there's an emergency or you've landed. So, you're good to catch a few Z's. 6. Chicken or fish. Statistically, most people on a long flight order the chicken rather than the fish. Since meal service tends to go from the front of the plane to the back, you may end up getting the fish as your only option. Some flight attendants use a trick to get more people to choose the fish. They say that the fish is a special from the chef, reserved exclusively for this flight. On average, people are naturally drawn to things that are exclusive and special, making the fish more popular. If you're a vegetarian, airlines have recently become pretty good about offering alternative options, and that can be a good choice if you don't totally trust the meat on offer. But watch out! If your flight doesn't offer a veggie meal in first class, your odds of being upgraded might go down significantly if you selected the veggie option because the attendants won't have anything to offer you. 7. Follow instructions or else. There are all kinds of things we get asked to do or not to do on airplanes. For instance, flight attendants may ask you to turn off electronic devices while taking off. You probably hear this common phrase, "Please return your seats and tray tables to their upright and locked positions." The American FAA has recently backed away from its assertion that electronics interfere with plane radar, but the tables and seats thing makes a lot of sense. In a rough landing, the person sitting behind you is more likely to hit their face on a reclined chair, which can damage their teeth or break their nose. Regardless, even if a flight attendant asks you to do something that seems silly, you should do it. Why? Because some airlines supply their flight attendants with tasers to deal with passengers who don't comply. Safety is very important on planes, and they've got to be able to control a situation. Don't make it hard on them, and they won't make it hard on you. 8. Sit toward the back. When you get on a plane, it's easy to opt for the front seats. You're closer to the door, you don't have to walk as far, and you won't be stuck in the hurry up and wait phase at your destination airport when you're stuck in your seat waiting for everyone ahead of you to get their bags and file out. Restrain this impulse. Especially if you're a nervous flyer, you'll be pleased to know that the back seats tend to be far safer statistically speaking. Most crashes cause significantly more damage to the front of the plane, and rotobursts and engine explosions tend to affect the middle of the plane. Most survivors from airplane crashes were seated in the rear of the aircraft. The service is also significantly better in the back of the plane because everything is right there in the rear storage compartment. Pillows, extra blankets, more drinks. Passengers in the rear of the plane get these things first. Flight attendants don't have to carry things as far up the aisle, so they'll come much more quickly and readily when you call. 9. Rely on your flight attendants. Feeling nauseated or sick? Push the attendant button. Flight attendants are trained in first aid and CPR. They can treat small wounds, assess symptoms of common traveler illnesses, and even deliver babies in flight. They are not medical professionals though, and they are trained to defer to actual doctors on the plane. 10. Flying tips straight from the pros. Flight attendants are full of useful knowledge to make your trip a cleaner, safer, and more comfortable one. Keep these things in mind. 1. Airplane floors don't get deep cleaned very often, and thousands of people walk on them every day. Never take your shoes off on a plane. At the very least, never walk on the carpet barefoot or in your socks. 2. Airplane toilets are similarly unclean. Use them only when you need to, and make sure you disinfect your hands, even if you've washed them. 3. Those fold-down tables, lots of passengers use them for all sorts of things. as writing surfaces, pillows with drool-catching action, or places to change a baby. You probably don't want to eat off a surface that might have had a dirty diaper on it just an hour ago. Use antibacterial disinfectant and clean the tray for your own safety. 4. Avoid using words like bomb or explosion or anything connected with terrorism on a plane. It makes people nervous and no one will appreciate the joke. You might also be asked to leave. 5. Sewing before or during a flight is a professional superstition, and no flight attendant will be able to provide you with a needle and thread. 6. Many flight attendants hate pouring Diet Coke for the in-flight drink service. It tends to be extra fizzy, even compared to other drinks. 7. Flight attendants have very little free time during a flight. If you're thirsty, rather than pressing the call button, consider going up to ask them for a glass of water. This is also a good chance to stretch your legs on a long flight. 8. Being kind pays off. Flight attendants provide better service to polite and courteous passengers. You might get a better seat, perhaps in an exit row where you can stretch your legs, more food, or discounted or free snacks and drinks. 9. Repeating the same routine day in and day out can get really monotonous, so some crews like to break it up with a comedic delivery of the safety demonstration, a tour of sights out the window of the plane, or even a dance routine. There's no reason air travel can't be fun, right? 10. Be sure to know the airline's tipping policy. Most passengers don't tip flight attendants, and it can be a nice gesture to show your appreciation. Did any of those secrets surprise you? Do you know any unusual things about airplanes? Tell us about them in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to always stay on the bright side of life.